Hello, I'm John McDonald, and before you hear is the TurnkeyChoice platform I'm working on developing. I'm doing this from a full stack perspective. I'm writing both the Angular front end, which is completely decoupled from a Laravel 11 back end, and this is actually operating in Angular 19, and I'm doing completely standalone components and such. And so I'm going to give you a demonstration. I'm going to kind of run through two phases of the platform so far. One, is a fresh, new user, and then I will go through and populate data so you can see how that also works there. So to begin, this is, your landing page, and right now I have, two-factor steps disabled from it, especially for testing purposes. So the first step, you would do is register, and so I'm going to create a John Doe user, and I'm going to create john@doe.com, and just doing a simple password of 123123. Okay, register, and that takes us directly into our platform. And so just to show you, I'm going to sign out here. Okay, and then I'm going to sign in with the john@doe.com, and then enter in the password, sign in. And so there we are, and as you can see, you get this nice little welcome notification, and here is the dashboard. And as this continues to develop, I'm going to add further metrics and graphs and things like that. And right now, total rentals, total tenants, and total leases are currently the only three working, because those are the three modules that I have complete. I actually have properties and tenants complete 100%, and leases is lacking an edit feature. I'm still working on getting that into place, and then I'm going further down the line to develop marketing, repairs, and rent. But once you log in, you can see you have a simple quick start guide, which tells you the steps you should follow in order to utilize the platform to the most efficient manner. And that would be to first create a property that you want to, this is a rental property, that you own, that you want to be able to manage. You want to be able to market, track repairs, pay, collect rent, and manage leases with, for instance. Okay, so the first thing you would do is create a property. Okay, now marketing it is optional. So this is kind of like an optional step here. So really it would be create a property, create a tenant, and create a lease, and then you can collect rent. Marketing would be for if you wanted to push it to Zillow, for available rental property on Zillow, such like that. And you could generate a lead, turn your lead into a tenant, and then turn, that tenant into a lease and collect rent from there. So you could do virtual marketing, and that's what that is there. That's part of what this marketing module is going to entail. I can show you kind of that real quick. So it's going to have, your own personal website. You have social media marketing options, and then you'll have lead management. Okay. However, let's head back to the dashboard, and let's follow through, and let's start a quick walkthrough. So the first thing I want to do is create a property. So I'm going to go to properties. Okay, and it pretty much just says, you don't have any, so go ahead and create your first property. Now, this is a pretty extensive form. This is a 5-stage form, as you can see. Images, you have metrics, details, bedroom, bathroom, all that stuff. And this is a pretty extensive form because the RESO real estate standard data requires, that you capture as much information about a home as possible. It's just the way it is with housing, especially if you want to push to different platforms like Zillow and such. You're going to have, you're going to try to have as many attributes as you can. Now, not all of them are required, and the fields that are required have the asterisk next to it. Like, for instance, alternate ID, MLS number, all that stuff. These are just metrics you can put into the system to help you, track or maybe search for later on a particular property. So the key to doing this is to just be thorough and patient, right? And just fill out the form as needed. So I'm going to just go ahead and create some dummy information. I'm going to go 123 Street, Lane, we'll say Detroit, Wayne County, Michigan. Okay, we'll choose zip code 5000. This property is going to be coming soon. It's going to be coming soon on February 28th. It's a residential property. It's a ranch style. And it's a single family home. Now for school district, we can say county schools, subdivision. It's not in a subdivision, so we'll just say not available. Or you can simply leave these things blank, which is what I'm going to do. Now property description, for instance, this is going to appear across multiple things, so it's important that you fill this out correctly, and just describe what the property is like. This is, a single family residential ranch with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, beautiful property, walking distance to shopping and school. We'll just make something up there. Okay, so next you would add your images for the home, and I have some already pre-made here, so we're going to go ahead and just select these. Okay, and it's going to ask you to choose your cover photo, which is going to be the main photo for your home. Alright, so we got that, and then we'll go ahead and hit next. Now here's your metrics where you're going to fill out, you can actually do floating point numbers too if you want to. So like if it's a 2.5, for instance, we'll say this is a 3.5 bedroom, we'll put 3.5, and 2.5 bath, we'll put 2.5, and it will actually adjust that later on, so it'll show up as a half in the verbiage. Square footage, we'll just say it's 2,500. And then a basement, we'll say it has a finished basement. We'll say it's 1,000 square feet. We have to choose what the measurements in. Livable area, again, we'll just say it's 2,000. Just putting in random numbers here. Structure area 2,500. We'll say total square feet. Lot size, we'll say 50 acres. Flooring level 2. Year built 1965. Okay, we'll say it has a garage, it has 2-car garage, heating source is electric, cooling source we'll say is natural, we'll say electric and natural gas. And then here you have the option to say what utilities it includes if you want to. And then down here is an amenity field where you can populate pretty much anything you need that's not listed. So a jacuzzi, for instance. A pool, we'll say a sauna, a steam room, so on and so forth. So then next, now here would be financials, and this is important that you fill this out as accurately as possible, because for instance it'll help you calculate your profit. So if you have a mortgage and you input your mortgage payment, what your APR is and your balance, it's gonna calculate your monthly rent at profit from there as well. So the more you have in there, tax amount, this is the amount that is current for that year, and each year it'll ask you to populate that each year as your tax payment changes, so you can keep track of exact details on how much you're making. So this is optional. Mortgage is optional. Rent payment obviously needs to be input. So let's just say it's $500 a month. Your purchase price of the home, we'll say, is $125,000. HOA fee optional. Tax assessed value, we'll say, is $100,000. The tax amount, we'll say, is just $1,500, and that's annually. We'll say no insurance or anything, and then I'm not going to put any notes in. So then we go ahead and click Save Property, and it says our property is successfully created. So if we go back to the index, we should see our home, and there it is. And this here is our first property, right? So now if you try to jump ahead, for instance, and create a lease on this, you'll notice that it's going to tell you must create at least one property and one tenant before making a lease. and it'll let you know that you have one property created and you have 0 tenants. So it's like, now, okay, in order to, kind of start using the system for a purpose, we need to create a tenant for our one property. So we'll go here, we'll go to create a tenant, and we'll create a John Doe, okay? And the cool part is it'll auto-populate here if you want to. It's 123 Street Lane, and that fills out your information for you automatically. Contact information 555-1212. And we'll say it's john@doe.com, john@doe.com. And then here you have the option for notes, or to, if you're going to allow email and phone contact for that particular tenant. So we can go ahead and save the tenant. Tenant successfully created, as you can see here. So if we go to index, here's our tenant. Now, under leases, we should have access to the lease module, because we have the 2 required things, a property and a tenant, that are required to create a lease. And so as you can see, it appears now it's different, and it's going to allow us to create a lease, which I'm going to go ahead and do now. And the cool part about this is you can select from your existing pool already, or if you need to, just use this specifically for, creating a custom lease as well. Which, it's not ideal. You want to definitely put a property and put a tenant in first, but you can overwrite and fill this out here. And the idea there is, if you had, for instance, a different leaseholder than a different tenant for whatever reason, you would still want to put, that primary leaseholder in the tenants list and then select them on here. But you can, type in what you need here as well. You don't have to strictly conform to picking a list or putting an ID in. So, and then to show you kind of the ID, the property ID was 760 on our first property. So you can see that pops up automatically, and that'll populate for us in there. Or you could have just simply selected it from here as well. And then landlord, okay. Now this is where you have to fill out the landlord, okay. And there's no real pre-populated field of landlords, so this is kind of dependent on each lease. So, for the landlord, we'll say it's Jane Doe is our landlord's name, and we'll say Jane Doe's rental properties, and she lives on 321 Street Lane in Detroit, Michigan. Whoops. And we'll say 5,000. Okay. And then here is where you're going to put in your actual terms. So how this rental fee is different, this is the actual rental fee that's going to be held to the lease. Okay. When you create a property and you put in a rental fee, that's going to be your advertised rental fee. Like when you push to Zillow or from the personal web page of your properties, it'll say this property, starting at $500 a month or whatever it is, and you may want to charge less or more on your actual lease, than your advertised rental fee. So this is where your actual concrete details are going to be held to the lease. So we'll say the rental fee is $500. Again, we'll say that's monthly. The due date, this is going to be your due date, so we'll say it's due on the 19th. Okay. A security deposit, we'll say 1 month's rent. A late fee of $50, non-sufficient funding fee if there's a bounce check or something like that, $50, and then a pet fee of whatever. If you don't want to have a pet fee, you just enter 0 or leave it blank. Well, it can't be blank, it's required, so just enter it as 0, because that will be discussed in detail in your lease, as you'll see. So then you have your dates, your lease start date. So we'll say it starts, then, and it ends in a year from now. So February 19th, 2026, and then move-in date, which is optional. So let's say the date that they choose to move in. Okay, and we'll go ahead and hit next, and then additional, just some additional information about the lease. For instance, how many occupants are there going to be? So there's going to be, let's say in this particular one, there's going to be 2 occupants, and you're allowed 4. Okay, and then any kind of additional info you might want to put here in notes. Okay, so then you can go ahead and hit save lease. And it says lease successfully created. So if we go to our index, we should see our lease. And we have our lease. So if we click on details, it's going to notify us that the lease is active and currently rent is current. All right. And then it shows you the information about the lease. You can just kind of cycle through and see, you know, the different information about it as it was entered. If we go back to lease, you can delete it if you need to, or you can edit it. However, the cool interesting part is it will actually generate a PDF of the lease. So here's your property lease agreement with all your information in it. You know, your security deposit, your rent, you know, your term, all of that stuff is in there, and it populates, you know, Jane Doe's rental properties and all that for you. So we'll go back here for a moment, and that's kind of show you now properties. If you click on properties, it's going to show you an advanced version of properties as well. It's going to show you all the details that you put in. Okay, photos, all that. You can click on photos and it'll show you the new photo, or the photo that's there. And then the interesting part of this is you can actually edit this as well. And this is functional, fully functional. So I didn't put a property name, so I want to call this, we'll call this the street lane home. We'll update that, and you can see it was successfully updated. All right, and you can see now that the name is there in street lane home, and if you go to index, you can see our street lane home name is added there as well. Okay, and so now the interesting part about this platform is I've created a bulk system as well for if you have a spreadsheet full of properties already. Okay, you can go to bulk, and if you click on details, there's a data detail page that's going to show you pretty much all your fields and how you need to map them. Okay, so it's important. This seems like a lot, but this is one of the most useful features of it. If you have a lot of properties, it's important. It's really not a whole lot. It's important to kind of study it, look at it, and understand what it is. For instance, your field name address is a string, and it can contain, you know, 1, 2, 3 street lane, and is it required? All right. So for bulk, you can actually download a pre-made template, which I'll go ahead and do that and open it real quick to show you. And that has all the fields in there, and you would just kind of go through and populate them as like 1, 2, 3 street lane. So alternate ID, you don't need amenities. You would just simply put in an array form like this: pool, jacuzzi, sort of like it showed on the form attached. What do we got here? Attached spaces, 2, we'll say availability. Now that's actually going to be availability status. So you would just simply put in a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, depending on if it's available. For instance, let's say it's available, you would just simply put 1, and that's that, right? And so once you have that mapped, however, you know, you can go ahead and upload something. And I've already have one created, so I'm going to go here to documents, TurnkeyChoice demo, and I have one here called properties. And so I'm going to go ahead and add that, and I'm going to click upload. And as you can see, it's uploading it, and it says the upload's complete. It's added 65 of 65 properties. All right, so we should now have a total of 66 properties with the one we added. Now the downside of bulk, which you can see, is it added all 65 properties at once. Okay, and you can see pagination works. So if you hit next, that takes you to the next set of pages there. So we're showing 49 of 66. So also items per page works. So we can filter that down. We can go and show them all if we wanted to. Just showing all 66. And now the downside of it is we have to go through and actually edit our photos. So there's no, since this gives us a stock photo for it, because you can't through the bulk uploader add images that way. So you have to go through, select your images, and and we'll go in here in house photos. So I'll go house 2, for instance, and we'll add these photos. And so as you can see the names here, so you match your cover photo, and we'll go ahead and hit update. And there we go, that adds our home images for it, right? And now if we want to, this has a pretty cool little photo editor. If I wanted to change this, for instance, to the cover photo, I can do that, and I can click add more images, and if I want to, I can add more images as well. So I can change the cover photo, add more images all at the same time, hit update, and there you go. Our home property image is changed, and it's uploaded, and we have those extra photos added at the end as well. All right, and there's that. Tenants, so if you need to, for instance, you can also, like 123 street, you know, you can do an address, match any filter, and that's going to filter down your property to what you're searching for. Okay, you can reset those, and that's back to there. And the same here, you have filters, you know, you can filter and search through, and it has pagination and all that, which is fully functional and working. Leases is the same way. And now if you want to, for instance, you can go down here to and you export all, right? And if you do that, it's going to export all of your properties in a pre-formatted CSV form, as according to what you would need to use for the importer as well. So I can open that up, and there you go. You can see all of our properties are in there. And that's pretty much a quick rundown of it right now. Of course, you can do that. You know, your drop down list works. Delete works. So if you want to, you know, delete a property, we'll go ahead and delete this one here. You hit delete, and your property's gone. Tenants, the same thing works. You can actually edit, and so we'll change this to John 1, update index, and we have John 1 Doe, and if you want to, you can delete it. That's not going to change your leases. Once the lease is created, it's created. The only way to manage and do that would be to edit or delete your lease here. Okay. So that's it for right now. As I continue to develop more, I'll create an updated version, and I'm going to actually create how-tos and shorter videos of it. You know, this is just kind of a run-through demo of it, and this is completely decoupled. You know, this is making a RESTful API call to Laravel, and you know, Angular, all the components are, you know, everything's done in components and so forth. So that's pretty much all I got for right now. Thanks.